Hey guys, it's Brooke with the Junk Parlor. It's finally time to reveal to you the laundry room. So if you missed part one of this little makeover, be sure to click the video either here or down in the description box. So when we moved in, we immediately put a cabinet up above the washer and dryer that we had in our old house. And I loved it in our old house. It was actually from my grandparents' kitchen. My grandma remodeled at some point, probably in the 70s, and stuck the cabinet out in her garage. And then I took it and I put it in my house. And she was probably about 95 at this point. And she was like, basically like, I cannot believe, Brooke, you are putting this basically piece of junk into your house. But that's what I did with a lot of her pieces. So we hung it here. Now, this washer and dryer is, I'm going to just say a man designed it. I'm sorry, men, but a man designed it because he had the dryer hole vent thing that takes the air outside of the house. It was up off of the floor, probably 8 inches. So it's coming up higher than the baseboards by quite a bit. So you have baseboard, drywall, the vent hole. Well, a dryer that you buy at the store has its little vent hole, for lack of better terminology, down on the bottom. Well, those things, the wall, the dryer, they don't line up. So that doesn't really work. So then you had to snake the whole big coil thing. And to do that, you have to leave it. It can't be crimped super tight. That's what causes fires. All the lint gets trapped in there. And so that caused it to have the dryer a good, I don't know, 12, 18 inches off the wall. So you'd come into the washer and dryer room and you would have no space because the washer and dryer were out this far. And then there was wasted space there. The reason probably that I didn't like the cabinet here was because the washer and dryer were so far out, I couldn't even reach to get anything other than the bottom row in the cabinet. So it wasn't very functional. So I probably would have liked it hanging now. However, we are on a really weird path. And I know I've watched people say, don't plan your home for reselling. Okay, well, yes and no. We know that when Cash graduates, we are going to move. And so he's a sophomore going into a sophomore year. There is no reason to have a bunch of holes on the wall, to have the cabinet here for 3 years, to then put a little note on it when we list it like this does not stay with the home. I just figured it would be easier, and I did put it down in the basement. So hopefully you've seen that. I do share that in part 1 video, and I absolutely love it there. So that was a good move for me, and it's just sitting on the counter. There's no holes. It'll be easy when we move, etc., etc., etc. I did have a bunch of these old trim boards salvaged that I did bring with us when we moved. Not really sure why, but I did kind of pick and choose a few things from my old brick and mortar that I wanted to take here to the new home just in case. So this is kind of my way to make this newer home, it's a 2015 build, feel a little bit older. However, I'm getting totally sidetracked on the damn dryer. So the vent holes don't match up, right? So I wanted to make a little platform, and it's not even like the builder thought, oh, well, most people are going to have a platform like the drawers, you know, the pedestal drawers that you can get for a lot of the machines. It wouldn't even have been lined up correctly if you had that. So I raised it up, literally used a 2x4. Actually, I stacked two 2x4s. So it's not even 4 inches up off the ground to get the holes to line up. Luckily, two 2x4s did the trick. I was thinking I would do 2 2x4s and a sheet of plywood and literally make a platform, but that would have lifted it up too high. So 2 2x4s is what we ended up with. Under the dryer, I did screw those 2x4s together. Under the washing machine, I did not, because there's not a lot of space in here. And I literally lifted, put the 2x4s under, set it back down all by my lonesome. And I just couldn't finagle screwing the 2x4s in, getting them in position, blah, blah, blah. Because some of the back 2x4s, I can't remember if it's one or both, but those are the span of both the washer and dryer instead of just one for the washer, just one for the dryer. So we get the holes lined up. I get it in there. I tape it all up really good. Okay, so good, right? It's done. Problem is that then the washing machine broke, and then my husband tried messing with it. Then he was pissed off, and he was talking about how the repair guy's going to hate me because all this shit that I jerry-rigged. Well, the repairman's like, I don't even need to move the washing machine, so it's fine. And then when he did move the washing machine to check something, he literally just tipped it forward on its front two legs and didn't have to really move anything. But all that messing around with it somehow shimmied off the dryer, and so now the vent holes were not lined up. They weren't taped together anymore. And what I kind of did, because literally the tubes for both were about the same size, the dryer may be slightly thinner, I just took pliers and I kind of angled in the ductwork on the dryer so that it would tuck inside the hole for the wall vent. So anyway, we had dryer vent everywhere in this room for a long time, but I told my husband, I need your help. Basically, I needed him to tip this out so I could crawl over. I made just enough room for my hips to squat down in there so I could line it back up and retape it. And then while we're messing with all of that, and I actually had somebody helping me, I positioned another board so things couldn't slide around. I screwed in the 2x4s on everything, so it is much more stabilized than it was the first time. To me, it makes perfect sense because it gets everything up tight against the wall, and I now can move in my laundry room, which honestly really doesn't matter because hubby does the laundry, but still, when I walk in here, I want it to be nice. So what else do we have going on in here? Oh, the front kind of like trim board that I use to hide the 2x4s. I do have one coat of paint over the screw heads, but I just noticed you can still kind of see it. I just literally touched up paint those because before I was using a nail, but then having to mess with it for all these different things. Matt's like, why don't you just use a screw? Well, I didn't use a screw because there was already nail holes in the trim board. A nail head is much smaller than a screw head, but I ended up putting a screw head in. Plus, that will give it a little bit more stability so that, you know, when our teenagers put clothes in and it's off kilter, it's going to kind of trap it into place so it can't shake around a whole lot. So that's probably been the biggest thing that I've done since the last video. And then I've hung some stuff. So we had the whole row of my enamel picture collection in the last video. And all those nails still remain because I did not take the time to pull them out. That gives me different opportunities to hang things. And I took these hole punch embroidery art pieces that I had above my toilet. Before that, I had them in the dining room. Before that, I think I had them in the living room. And I put them in here. Not that I'm like absolutely in love with them, but they're the right colors. I didn't really have anywhere else to put them. There's room that I can add to this collection. And then I hung this mirror. The mirror I bought to put above my toilet, right? But what did hubby say? He didn't want to see himself peeing every time he went pee. And I really couldn't position the darn mirror so that you couldn't see full frontal view. So I ended up hanging it in here. It did require a little bit of finagling as far as getting a way to hang it because whoever had it before had it hanging upside down, or at least upside down in my opinion. I think the arched pieces look much better on the top and the straight on the bottom than straight on top and kind of like a U-shaped on the bottom.
When hanging the mirror, the first thing I had to decide was which way did I want to hang it, since it had been wired opposite, in my opinion. So I got a stool and I tested it out both ways to make sure that I really did want the arch on top. You can kind of see that I've been trying hanging more of my picture collection, wreaths, hats. I've been trying everything. So I definitely think that it looks better with the arch on top. What about you? Whomever had attached this originally really did it securely. So these end pieces I am very unfamiliar with. There were thick eyes, the wire was covered with plastic, so it took a little bit of work to get them off. And the mirror really didn't seem level, so I don't know if it's because of the shape, the arched part, so I definitely got my level out to make sure that it was sitting level, even if it was, to my eye, seemed a little off. And this has been a great mirror to kind of do a outfit check before heading out the door.
I did take this stool too, and I hung it up here. I really like it. Gives some more height to the little area. I only have one feather duster left. I had a whole collection, and then well, not a whole collection, but I had a collection of 3 or 4, and I ended up selling them. The only other thing that I'm thinking I will do in here is bundle up some hand brooms, some whisk brooms, and kind of put them on like a stringer and get those in display. My sink has a cutting board going across it, and that is just because that gives me a space to put our Tide Pods and our dryer sheets, and still plenty of access to the sink. So I'm not used to having a sink in my laundry room, so that has been really nice. The kids clean their shoes in it. We use the magic eraser a lot, or if we're soaking something that has a stain on it. So it's still totally accessible. I also cleaned underneath the sink and reorganized that, made a spot for the trash can. And then in the window, I pretty much just have some plants that are dying that my friend gave me to try and salvage. So I cut some snake plant leaves to try and sprout those, which I'm looking, and they might be ready to go in the ground. They actually have little roots, which everything that I read or watched said that it takes forever, and it's only been like a month, I think. The other ones, I forget what it's called, what kind of plant it is. If you know, tell me down in the comments. It was one plant that looked pretty much dead. And so what I did, I thought it was just one plant. I must have cut it into sections and then just stuck it in the dirt in hopes that something would grow. One of them looks good. One of them had been looking good and now looks dead. The other one looks definitely dead. But I'm going to leave them in there a little bit. Like I said, it's only been like a month, so I feel like it takes things a little bit to die and then to regrow. I don't know. I don't have a green thumb. But I will probably take those out of this window at some point and do a little display of some other things, because I do have some clothespins in a jar, and I have some spools with some little stockings and some little cutesy kind of laundry roomish things that I would like to display in here somewhere. But I want to keep the decor to a minimum. And one way you can do that is just by having what I call medium-sized pieces and spreading those out versus having a bunch of little teeny tiny things. Well, thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing what I did to the laundry room and me kind of explaining to you why I chose to do what I did. Hope to see you here next week. Bye.